This week, we talk visual specs and some drama with a new Xbox exclusive. This is the GGBG podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the GGBG podcast. My name is Mike, throwing you for a loop today. And with me is a man who once asked, how do they fit so many first-person shooters in these monitors? It's my co-host, Spencer. Spencer, how are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. I'm sitting in the co-host seat today. I'm letting you do the driving. And I'm curious, how are you? How are you feeling? You've got
That's not how this works.
full blown hosting chops right now. You nervous? I'm sitting here cheesing right now.
No, I feel like I have control.
Oh no. Oh no. Wait, and if you have control, that means I now lack control. Oh no, now I'm not doing so good.
I was doing good, but then you didn't laugh at my intro, so
I was laughing. It'll pick up in the
I was laughing.
It'll pick up in the podcast side. Sometimes Discord doesn't pick up my
You're gonna cut it in, aren't you?
my sniffling. No. In unrelated news, I'm just making a note real quick on my phone.
All right, just let me know when you're done.
No, yeah, I'm good anyway.
Tell me about your week in gaming.
Sure. Let's see. I actually almost did something really cool as a trophy getter. I was almost the first person to platinum MLB The Show 23.
I believe you.
Because there was a trophy that was tied to something within Diamond Dynasty that was tied to something having to release first, which is the Tops Now moments, which are based on like actual events that happen in the MLB season, and then you like play out those moments and you get like in-game currency, stuff like that, right, for completing missions. And so there were no Tops Now moments out at the launch of the game. So it was impossible to get the platinum day one. But I got all the trophies realizing that all I have to do is at 3:00 last Friday. So what would that date been? The 7th. At 3:00 on the 7th, I need to just be in the show. I need to just boot up a Tops Now moment and it'll trigger that trophy and I'll get the platinum. And I was in a meeting for work. And the guy assured me, I literally was like, yeah, I just have something at 3. So this meeting has to end before 3. It didn't. It ended at like 3:03 and I got the platinum at 3:05. So I was that close. And at the time, I thought I was the second person to get the platinum, but that was just simply because PlayStation Trophies takes a while to update different profiles. Everybody's on like a different cycle. So I'm no longer even in the top 5 because multiple people got it right at 3:00. Yes, but I was close.
Cheating people in their work that love them.
Yes, exactly.
You should have just straight up told him, hey, dude, like, I need to be first in the world for something at 3. So, like, maybe if you could just not have this meeting that long, that'd be great.
And, it's not something that I truly, like, care about when it comes to getting platinums. Like I never think about, I hope I'm at least top 100 or anything like that. But this was just one of those opportunities where I saw a clear path to actually be the first, and I just thought that like almost like a bucket list item that I never even had on my bucket list that I would be able to cross off as something that like I'll probably never achieve it again unless this perfect scenario comes up again, right? Because I never get a game and get through it and platinum it all within the first 20 hours of the game being out. And that's normally what you have to do for most games, I would imagine. So
just gotta beat Greg.
What's that?
Just gotta beat Greg.
Yeah, just gotta beat Greg Miller, Uncle Greg.
I assume he's the first to platinum every new game that comes out.
Yeah, I'm curious how many firsts he has. But yeah, so I just saw this as like a cool opportunity. I was super jazzed for it, and then almost cared about it too much that like it kind of hurt my heart when I saw that I was second. And so if anything, I'm actually grateful now that like it's since updated and I'm no longer even in the top 5, because it's like, okay, you know, what could have been it doesn't matter anymore. But
Imagine you thinking you were first,
oh,
and then looking at it a couple days later, and you being like 500th.
that would be heartbreaking. The problem is they only show the top 5. They only show the first 5 to do it. Which does kind of suck because I would love to see what number I was. Maybe I'll have to do some digging. Maybe I can try and figure it out somehow. But um, either way, almost had that really cool life moment, gaming moment, we'll say. Um, but I did platinum MLB The Show, and I also platinumed Cult of the Lamb just last night.
Wow. Look at
Um,
you.
what's that? Sorry.
I said, look at you.
Yeah, yeah. And what an amazing game. That puts me at 121, I think, total trophies, in my gaming career, we'll say. But I think just this year alone I've already gotten 14. So it's pretty good, I feel like, for me, especially for MLB The Show being out. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So I think the only other thing is there's another game that I'm close to platinuming. It's a situation where it's leaving PlayStation Plus. And so I'm still trying to keep myself to it, at least to try and platinum one game that's leaving. Amidst MLB being out, I think that's still probably doable. And I forget what the hell it's called already. The Caligula effect. It's Persona E, but it's not nearly as good. But fairly easy to get through. So I think I have until the 18th to do that, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close to getting that done. But yeah, that was it for my weekend games. What about you?
Very nice. I might have only played racing games. I
Yeah,
actually don't think I played Madden
nice.
since the last time we talked. I don't know if that's true, um, but I'm pretty sure. Um, but played, Justine and I have been playing a bunch of Mario Kart, and here's why. So I keep getting ads for the new, like the Mario Kart course pack
Mm-hmm.
that are like new maps out now, and I feel like I just started seeing them, and they're like Birdo's now a playable character. And I was like, I don't remember seeing Birdo as a playable character before. And so I told Justine, I was like, hey, all these new maps just dropped. Let's play Mario Kart this weekend. So we went in, and I didn't see any new ones. Went through this whole song and dance to figure out, like, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. I have the course pack, and I just kind of Googled what are the new courses, and there are ones that we had already beaten.
So like you had done all the new courses and just didn't realize.
Yeah, the new courses came out in March, early March or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I'm seeing like Nintendo ads that are like before YouTube videos.
Right.
It's like a promo. It's like new courses out now, and I just started seeing them.
That's
It's like, oh
so
sweet,
weird.
there's a new wave. And no, yeah, it's I don't understand why they're advertising out this far. Um, but it still prompted us to play some Mario Kart. So we're working through 100cc now, and once we get more maps, we'll play those. And then other than that, I've been playing more Forza Horizon 5, which has the more I play that game, the more I realize just how fantastic it is.
Yeah.
Like the races are fun, the exploration is fun. Like even the collecting is overwhelming, but still fun. Um, Luckily, there's really no like inventory system, but it's hard to tell. Like you get duplicate cars quite frequently,
Oh, okay.
and there's like a marketplace you could go on and sell them like to actual people. I think you can like also just like sell them to get rid of them, but you get like far less credits. than if you were to just like put them on the marketplace and have someone else buy it.
Yeah, you can can you like set up like sell orders or buy orders and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I haven't really done any of that, but luckily, like you don't really need to. But yeah, I've been playing a ton of that. The current season ends tomorrow, and I was trying to get through some of the challenges. You basically just get to unlock like specially tuned cars.
Okay.
So I was trying to do that, but some of the season events in that game are really weird. Like there are different like championship races you need to do, and it's basically my understanding is it's 3 races. You have to do them in order. But there's multiple of these. And if you start one that's not in the current championship you're doing, it like gets rid of your progress on the other one.
Oh, that's
And there's
annoying.
really like there's no good way to differentiate which ones you have done and which ones you haven't done. So like I did one and found the next race and it says like continue championship instead of enter championship if it's the one you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I did 2 races and I can't find the third one. And the third one that I do see is a race that I've already done. And it's like if I go back and do it, it restarts the whole championship. So it's very confusing. I'm sure I'm just missing something, but like there is a lot in that game. It is my biggest complaint with that game is just how much shit there is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the map is covered, so if you don't use filters, you like can't find anything
Yep.
that you're actually looking for. The main menu is useless because there's so much stuff and you don't know like what is actual content and what is like player created content, which like is fine. Like I've played a couple of player created races and they're a lot of fun, but they don't necessarily yield the same rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of just like for fun. But regardless, it's been fun. I've been playing a ton of that. And Watch Dogs Legion was on sale. Like the deluxe edition was on sale for like $10. So I couldn't help myself. So I bought that. I'm probably going to play
Ooh.
that again.
Nice.
I liked that game so much, and I played it on Stadia, which is essentially equivalent to playing it on like PS4 or Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give that game some justice and playing it on a current gen console. And I've been wanting to play it again anyway because there's a new mode that like I guess it's kind of like harder. Like you can't go through certain checkpoints with your characters, or else it'll like the police will get called on you.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to like be strategic with like which characters are where and that kind of stuff. So gonna try that mode out. And yeah, that's it for my week.
Nice. Nice. So, but you haven't actually started up Legion yet.
No, I haven't. I was going to, but I'm trying to get through some of the season stuff for Forza. You have to like get a certain amount of points to get like the specially tuned cars. I'm not going to get there. Um, I was trying to kill some time in between stuff for work today and do some of these races, and I just didn't get anywhere because it kept like restarting the championship. So I'm gonna
Ugh.
give up on it probably, but it's fine. It's you can still get the cars and tune them yourself. It's just like a fun challenge.
Sure. I gotcha.
Yep. So yeah, might start Legion this week sometime, or might actually spend some time on a game I haven't already played. But I've just really been wanting to play Watch Dogs again.
Love it.
Yeah. So you and I struggled this week because again, not a very news heavy week.
Yep. It's been a classic here of late.
Yeah. But we saw some news today, and today is Wednesday, April 12th, so yesterday. That Arcane announced that Redfall is going to launch with a 30 FPS mode for the Series X and the Series S. And that's news because with most current gen games, there's a performance mode and then what do they call it? Like a quality mode.
Yeah, I want to say quality is yeah, and this would effectively be 30 FPS would be performance, right?
I
Or do I have that flipped? I might have that flipped.
I think it's flipped because I think the thought is at 30 FPS the graphics are better. So I think this is quality mode. Is that what you said?
No, I said this was performance.
Okay.
I think I think I have it flipped. I'm gonna try and find it real quick.
Yeah, it is. So this is quality mode. 60 frames
Okay.
per second is performance.
Okay.
So Arcane just said that the game is going to run at 4K 30 FPS on the Series X and then 1440p 30 FPS on the Series S. And at least to start, there's going to be no option for a performance mode, which would bump it up to 60 frames per second. And I've seen, I want to say mostly bad feedback on this. I don't know if you've seen anything different, but it's a weird decision in my brain.
Yeah. So I would say that for the most part, most of the like reactions I've been seeing are negative. I want to say it was Gene Park who was kind of like drawing attention to it, and then I think Benji Sales uh, commented underneath him. Either way, I'm positive it was Benji Sales kind of defending this a bit, basically saying like odds are there's data to back that, you know, most people play on like this mode or that mode, and like which mode is really like the more important mode to like have up front and then to like bring in another one later. I think it is odd though because of like how we've been getting games in this current gen. Like you said, most games release with both. So it is kind of weird to like, you know, are we getting into the realm of like, oh, well, to get it out when we said we would get it out, we can only have this mode in. And this is the mode we chose because, again, the data backs it up that like most people play on this mode, blah, blah, blah. And then we're just going to add in the other one later. Or did they like never really think that like, you know, on release, it should have both modes? So that's the only thing that like is a little questionable to me about it. But yeah, I would say for the most part, what I'm seeing is like a lot of negative reactionary stuff about like, you know, some people going to the point of like, yeah, all very much all doom and gloom for Xbox because of this, because they can't have a good first party release. Um, I think that's a bit far. I think that's a bit much. I think some of just the negativity around it in general has been going a little far. But I think that's just because personally, I just don't think it really matters all that much. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
It would be interesting if they just didn't. Oh, I don't know. Let me think about this. Because part of me is like, well, what if they just didn't say anything? But you know, there's going to be that one person who goes in to change it to performance mode, and they'll be like, well, how do I do this? And then they'll have to say after release, oh, well, like that feature's not ready yet. Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this. I'm personally more. I tend to play more on a performance mode because, like, my TV is not that great. Um, it can get 4K 60 frames, But it's not like, I don't know. 4K is not 4K in my opinion. If you spend over $1,000 for a 4K TV, okay, like you have a case. I think my TV was like $300. So I'm more in it for frame rate than like graphical quality because frame rate bothers me a lot more than graphics. Um, but it's just it's I don't want to say it's necessarily okay that this is letting like that this they're gonna let this slide. Um, and it's hilarious because you keep seeing this tweet from Aaron Greenberg from May of 2020.
Yes.
Of him saying 60 frames per second will be the standard output, but the architecture allows us to support up to 120 frames per second. And God, the amount of times I've seen this retweeted as if it's somebody's original, like they went back and sleuthed this out or they've been holding on to it for 3 years. It's just, it's interesting. Um, I don't know. I think it's going to have people call into question, like, is it really? I mean, one of the gimmicks of this generation has been this quality versus performance mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this might call into question, like, do we really need this? Why don't we just standardize it? Because, it's clearly not just like a hardware thing where they can build their game at 60 frames per second and then the hardware does the scaling. Like, apparently they need the software to also help with that. Which makes sense, I suppose, but people are going to throw a fit about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I feel like the negativity around this is simply just, the loudest people who care the most about this thing are the ones talking about it. And to kind of like push that further. I mean, to bring up the Aaron Greenberg thing, like, and you brought up like the 4K TV stuff like that, right? Like, maybe my eyes just suck, or maybe my eyes are just so freaking good. One or the other, clearly, because all of these things just like don't make an impact or matter to me. Like somebody can show me like, and I probably have all my settings wrong. And one of these like tech people, like Linus Tech Tips, would come over to my house and be like, he'd just start smashing everything basically and just say like start over. Because I probably have like the worst settings on and stuff like that. But like I just like look at something on one thing and then I look at it on something else that's clearly supposed to be better. And I'm like, is this actually better or does it look the same to me? And so like Aaron Greenberg says 120 FPS. And I said to you, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting talking point, as we consider like a mid-gen upgrade.
Yeah.
The PS5 and the Series X can hit 120 frames per second. They have the hardware to do that. So why aren't there more games doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Show me a listing of every 120 FPS or 120 hertz at least TV that you've seen.
I don't even know what that means. That's my problem.
So hertz essentially reflects frame rate. So every second it can show that many frames because all we're looking at is moving pictures.
Right.
So how many times can it refresh and show us a new picture? So okay, well, there really are. I don't want to say no. At least 120 hertz TVs. I couldn't give you a specific example, but I know they're out there somewhere, and they're probably $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. But they're just it's not a thing. And of course, we're gonna have the one person be like, oh well, 144 hertz computer monitors
Mm-hmm.
are a thing. Which yeah, you're right. And that's very standard in the PC world to be hitting 120 frames consistently. But let's not forget that these are video game consoles. I dare say the majority of people are going to have this set up to a big ass TV in their little ass living room, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and again, these TVs are pretty standardly only hitting 60 FPS. So is it really worth the development time to get a game that's 120 FPS? Um, you know,
Yeah.
I think this situation is kind of shedding some with Redfall, shedding some light on that because they have a game coming out that standard to start is going to be 30 FPS.
Right. I mean, I will say like another weird thing about this is the fact that I'm pretty sure like the gameplay was at like 60 FPS, but yeah, I think the overall conversation that I personally think is here is the fact that like I think people are told, right, that like this is better, and then they just tell themselves that it's better and that it's actually like this huge difference and huge upgrade, right? Like I'm not saying 30 to 120 isn't like a big jump.
Mhm.
I've never tried to compare the two, right? But I do question I do question when people like have two TVs that basically the specs are exactly the same, but the one has like, you know, ultra cum in it, and they're like, "Oh, I can clearly tell that this one's better." And it's just like I don't think you can. I think you're just convincing yourself that it's better. And I think that what happens is like, yeah, like you get a game that's like locked, right? That you're overspec'd for, but you're playing it on that and you're like, oh yeah, it's clearly so much better on here. And it's just like, no, it's exactly the same because both are perfectly capable of running it and not doing anything differently because it's both are overspec'd or whatever. You just have like a slightly better this or that, but it's not making a difference here. I think that's what it all like kind of somewhat comes back to. And again, I do really think it's just like people who are like so vocal about these things that are just like, oh, if a game's not 60 FPS, I can't even touch it. And like Benji Sales, he literally did a poll that says like, is 30 FPS versus 60 FPS a legitimate difference maker for you in terms of purchasing or your playing decisions? And the four options are yes, 60 FPS or skip, prefer 60 but accept 30, don't care either way, or depends on the genre. And 42% of people say yes, 60 FPS or skip. And then basically like the others are basically saying like you're fine if you say depends on the genre, you cut that in half. You're effectively looking at a 50-50 split of people who are like it has to be 60 FPS and then 50% of people who are saying like it doesn't fucking matter.
Mm. Um, I guess my opinion on it is I believe that the standard should be 60 frames per second.
Okay.
That's my. I do have a. Okay. I have a grudge against 4K. And I think 4K is incredibly dumb
Well, that's the other thing, right?
because
Like cuz there's 8K
the
too
human,
now. And I'm like,
yeah,
"What?"
the human eye can't see that pixel density. So basically, 4K and 8K, all that allows you to do is make bigger TVs.
Mhm.
But like, how big of a TV do you need? I don't know. Again, personal preference, but on the average, we'll say 32 to 65-inch TV, you're not going to see 4K.
Mhm.
Yes, it's there, but
Allegedly.
allegedly, but the difference between that and 1440 is negligible. So, like, frankly, I think games look better if they have a higher frame rate. Um, but like, it's I don't think it's a reason to skip a game. And again, it's going to come out with a 60 FPS mode at some point, but it's not going to be unplayable. Like
Right.
there are going to be some things about it that are going to be better than if it were 60 frames. Um, I get people don't like the choppiness. I don't either. That is a big turnoff for me, but like I don't think it should constitute the quality of a game.
Right.
It's hard to say. Like, why did Arcane make this decision? I Other than the fact that probably not enough resources, but why they decided to go with 30 frames over 60 frames. Like you said, there was probably some sort of data behind it.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's where I circle back, and where I would say like I'm disappointed, technically in Arcane. Is that like it is if it's simply because like, oh, we have to make sure we hit this deadline. And that's probably the reason. And, you know, that I just don't love. Like if we're trying to set a precedent that there's a performance and a quality mode at launch, like let's just stay dedicated to that.
Mhm.
And then you can avoid, I don't know if they just didn't think that people would care as much as they do, but again, the people who are going to be the loudest about like, their game has to look as crisp and clean and check all of these boxes. Like, of course, those people are going to be the loudest about it because that's like all they talk about, and they convince other people, that like these are the things that matter, and in a lot of cases, they're right. I mean, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I go to videos and say, "Okay, convince me and tell me how to make this thing look better."
Mhm.
Like, tell me how to make this look better because I'm not seeing it. um, but I don't know if it was that or what, but uh, uh, that's the area where I'm like somewhat disappointed. But to your point, right? Like you said, like the game's still gonna be fine. The gameplay is still gonna be good. Um, you just don't have your 60 FPS to start. I think it's dumb though. I agree with you. I really I'm in the same boat when it comes to Twitter dunks that people try to do where it's like, "Oh, is this you?" and they pull up a screenshot and it's just like somebody else already did that. You're not the first person to do this. Like we get it, you know. Once one person does it, it's enough. I don't know if Tom Henderson was the first person, but I was in other people's and looking at replies and other people had it in there. And it's just like,
Yeah.
we get it. A man said that something was going to be one way, and it turns out 3 years later that it is in fact not that way. Shocking, like tale as old as time.
It's funny because Tom Warren responded to Tom Henderson with a tweet of his own that he saved from a couple days after that Aaron Greenberg tweet that basically said um, Xbox Series X games won't run at 60 frames per second standard output. Microsoft tells me ultimately it's up to individual developers to determine how they leverage the power and speed of Xbox Series X.
So there you go.
So conflicting.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron Greenberg from Xbox said that that's the standard output. I feel like if he would have said standard output target, maybe, this wouldn't keep getting brought back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm sure that was the hope, that 60 frames would be the standard. Um, here's my tinfoil hat moment. Um, and I think, looking at what Tom Warren brought back up, uh, would this have been left to slide if it weren't a Microsoft owned studio?
Um, it's an interesting thought. I think, I think we find like scenarios like this constantly, right? Like especially when we were talking about like how Sony can say one thing and Microsoft can say the same exact thing, and you'll get two very, very different reactions, it feels like. Um I think it depends on like is it Rockstar doing this? Is it Bethesda, right? Like it is in this scenario. So I want to say that the reaction probably is still the public reaction is still probably to this caliber, but I feel like there's like an extra jab being taken each time I see a post that is trying to make it out like it's Microsoft's fault, right?
Mhm.
Like, um, they wouldn't obviously be able to do that if Microsoft didn't own Bethesda, but that's the only difference, I think, truly. Like, I think people are using this as like an extra opportunity to say like, and like, this sucks. I don't like this. And it's all like, and that's what they would say. And then they go, and it's all Microsoft's fault. Like, this is happening because it's Microsoft. But I think like this would again would be happening regardless. Um, and and people would be upset by it and say like, oh, here we go, another bad Bethesda release, right? It's just they have the opportunity to put it under the Microsoft umbrella, and say another poor first party Microsoft release. You know, I don't think any of these situations are like the sky is falling for Microsoft, but people love to make it out like each and every one of these quote unquote bad releases or bad handlings by Microsoft are the end of the world for Microsoft. Yet they're on the cusp of owning, Activision Blizzard, and overall have had some very fine releases. People just love to focus in on the bad, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like, I saw something last week, and it was like the first gameplay trailer. I guess there's IGN has a thing now where they can try to get like deals with developers to publish a montage of like first gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was watching it, I was like, oh, this looks dope. And like, just like all the comments were like, I can't believe Microsoft would let IGN publish this like dog shit video as the first gameplay
Uh,
look. Like, the person who's playing the game looks like they have no idea what's going on. And it's like they're running around and shooting and killing stuff. Do you know what's going on?
mm-hmm. uh,
It just,
Sorry, go ahead.
it just feels like people have it out for this game. It feels like this is gonna be that game this year. There's one every year, and this isn't gonna be it.
Yeah, it's taken Forspoken's place in like the media cycle. Like, because Forspoken came out and like whatever, we're past it. It's been how many months? What's this Redfall game? Boom, hyper focused. Every little thing. If you so much as sneeze, I will be on you. What like white on rice. Uh, I do. And I think it's funny that you bring up the whole IGN thing because sometimes I do kind of agree that like the IGN first looks are sometimes just like I get what they're like. I like it's good. Like somebody should do it. So I'm happy that they like have IGN do it. But also I think like I to your point, like I don't think anybody could do those videos like actually like well. Because you're right. Like everybody's a little confused as to like what they're doing because they're literally the first person like getting hands-on experience with the game. But I do agree that sometimes it's just like, wow, this person does look like they have no idea what they're doing. But again, you're 100% right in like the why that is. So
So I kind of want to go back to the next gen update conversation.
like the
The mid
midlife.
gen update,
Okay.
midlife, yeah. So we know that the PS5 and the Series X can hit 120 frames per second.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a considerable amount of technology to be able to do that. And like I said, we don't even have really uh, a widely available TV offering that could handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's so much. I'm looking, of course, because I'm a dumbass. I'm looking at the comments of Tom Henderson's post, and someone's just like, "But we don't need mid-gen updates," and it's just such like this has nothing to do with the hardware. I think this has to do with developers don't know what standard that the hardware makers want,
Yeah.
namely Sony and Microsoft. They're trying to make it more like a PC where you can kind of tune in your own settings, but
Yeah.
obviously it's a little more of a closed box than a PC. So developers have to do something about that.
And
I just go ahead.
well, I was gonna say maybe some of it is that the fact that like this is like the best console to like PC uh comparison, I think, right? Like we've had like in terms of like um it's like specs on release. I mean, it was not to give Linus all the shout outs, but he literally tried to make a video, right? Where can I build a PC that is as specced out as an Xbox Series X for the same price? And it's impossible to do.
Right.
So maybe this is like the first console generation that has really like made like a large amounts of PC players to like pick up a console, and like so they're just using it in the same like PC format. So like they're setting it up at a desk, using a monitor and not playing it like the typical past uh console gamer would, which is on your couch on your 40 to 50-inch TV in your living room. So maybe that is some of it. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
uh
Absolutely.
and to that point, I do find um kind of a small life update that I didn't give you. I actually started playing ranked MLB The Show. So I've been playing against real people, which is kind of crazy if you know anything about me and playing against live other humans.
Been a while.
Um it has in fact been a while. And the results have been uh average at best, but I'm having fun and not getting pissed off. But so many people in the competitive scene of MLB The Show specifically will tell you like, oh, you shouldn't play it on a TV. You should be playing it on this monitor. This is the monitor I recommend that you get, and you should be playing on this because it'll give you the best quality. Blah 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 blah, and like all this other stuff. So maybe that's just like somewhat of the reality that like this is more catered to a PC person than it ever has been in the past. And so that's why there's maybe like some level of like extra expectations or divisiveness in terms of like the base and how you cater to everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. And we look at, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, but like there were those designed for Xbox like TVs that came out.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like it was monitor manufacturers making them, and they were like 55-inch monitors, not like a television display. And they were rather expensive. And so yeah, I mean, I think that also points to it. They're trying to make this more catered to how like the PC gaming environment is. Um, I don't know that that's necessarily good, but I just like competitive players have PCs,
Typically.
okay, and they can tune it however they want. It's the same thing like in racing. Um, you're not going to go to a drag race in a Honda Civic that you bought off the lot.
You're
You know,
not.
well, I'm not because I wouldn't buy a Honda Civic. But just kidding, they're fine cars. They're great. Just don't take the fucking muffler off them. But I don't think they can move in that direction. Um, Xbox in particular, because they have PCs. Okay, like they have PC Game Pass, they have
Mm-hmm.
that infrastructure already. I think consoles still need to be catered towards everyday people. again, the people who are going to be plugging this into their family TV, which probably isn't going to get 120 hertz,
Right.
probably isn't going to be 8K,
Right.
and honestly, won't be for a very long time.
Yeah, and only the most dedicated prototypical console gamer will have that.
Right. But I think they're catering towards the people you were talking about earlier, like all the spec lords, the ones who like only
Mhm.
care about having the best of the best. Like, oh, if it's not 60 frames per second, it's
I
trash. If it's
yeah,
not straight 4K, it's trash. If it's not HDR, it's trash. Like,
I I think it's like because we've for so long had this vocal base of console gamers that were like we want to PC gamers are always telling us about how great they have it, so we want to be close to that. And then I think also some of it's like, can we convince somebody who is on PC to actually buy our console, because like that feels like an untapped market, an impossible market if anything, to have jump from that level of customability and everything else, right? To convince them to maybe still have their box of their own, but to also buy our company's specific box. And yeah, I think like you said, like now we're just trying to cater to like the what'd you call them? Spec lords?
yeah, I don't know if
I like
that's
that.
like a ISO like standardized term, but
It can be now. I'm okay with
yeah,
it.
I'll submit it.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think it's kind of bullshit, right? Like this is our world. This is console world. You come here and you play by our rules.
Yeah.
You don't get to
Like,
make demands. We do not negotiate with PC terrorists.
yeah, I think this whole convolution is what's leading us to this Redfall situation.
Hmm.
Just let people make the game. And I understand like people are pissed off because Microsoft is like, oh, you need to have a performance or a quality mode, but it's also got to run on Series S.
Hmm.
Like I get that. I am for getting rid of like mode options. Just let developers make whatever is going to be best on the console using whatever general consensus method that they have.
Hmm.
It's what we've been doing for the past 30 years of game consoles, and this has only become an issue because we made it one.
Hmm.
Um, and I do think like lower end consoles should still stick around. Like I think the Series S should still stick around. I think if PlayStation decided to do a lower end uh, PS5 model, like I think that would be great. And I understand that it's a pain in the ass for the developers, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the Series S was and is really great for gaming in overall and in general. But I am starting to worry that they've like somewhat handcuffed themselves into this bad situation because all of a sudden people are making it out like it's hard to develop for this thing because it's almost old gen. And the way that the console lifecycle has always worked basically is that the new gen launches, so like the PS5 launches, and the PS4 will become obsolete, and it will at some point in like give or take halfway through typically like the new life cycle. That's a rough estimate, right? Because the true life cycle of like this is the console, this is the new console is like 7 years, right? Give or take. And then I would say the overall life cycle of it though is like 10 years, right? Before it's like no longer getting like new games and stuff like that. And I think like there just always has to be somewhat of like this like understanding, right? That like at some point that is gonna happen. And I wonder if like the Series S is kind of like handcuffed them into this now like in between spot. where they can't, like they can't give up. They can't like give up on it, right? Because it is the current gen, right? So they can't just say like 3 years into it, 4 years into it, like, wow, we can't make games for the Series S anymore. Like they can't do that.
And I really don't think like I think this talking point that it's handcuffing the generation has like been disproven multiple times now by developers. And that like really the biggest difference you get um is like the ratio. So it's instead of
I'll show you a
4K.
ratio.
Oh yeah. But the resolution is the word I meant. 1440p versus 4K. And again, 1440p is still very impressive. Um, so I don't know. And you still get the advance of like the load times. Like I don't know if you or anyone who's listening has like who has a current gen console has tried to go back and play like a previous gen game, but like loading times were a thing.
Oh yeah, I have the luxury of Shelby and having the PS4. We can actually go back and play PS4 games together by her being on the PS4 and me being on the PS5, and it's great. And yeah, I load into the game quicker simply because I'm playing it on my PS5, even though we're playing the PS4 version of the game. Like it does still make a difference there, and it's stupid. Like it's insane. It's brutal. Like we definitely do not realize how good we have it because one day it changed and that was it and that became the new norm and I didn't even notice it then, right? I didn't even notice like holy crap this loaded so quick. But I can, if I stop and think about it, think back to when I tried playing Skyrim on the PS3, which I know is 2 generations ago, and I wanted to bash my head into a wall if I ever accidentally walked into a building. Like entered a building because that was going to be the next 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess saying like handcuffed like wasn't necessarily. I'm not trying to say that's the case.
No, I know.
I know that's what people are kind of bringing up, but if it is all of a sudden going to become like the issue, like what the hell can they do about it, right? Like, and again, I still think and stand by that it was good, and will continue to be, the best idea that anybody's had for this current gen. And I hope it's something that that continues to happen moving forward. And I think, think about this. Think about the fact that it's a $300 price point at launch, right? Compared to the 500 like for the Series X.
Mm-hmm.
Think about if they would have done something that was even just a little bit more closer, right? Like just it was $100 discount. I mean, a $200 discount obviously is much better received on the consumer end and for our wallets and our pockets. But even just like $100 discount, right? Think about the fact that the $100 discount for PlayStation was simply not having a disc drive, nothing else.
Right.
To me, Xbox would have made that $100 go further. That's just my expectations. So even just think about something like that. Like I think there's opportunities for this model moving forward, and I think it's actually overall much better. And yeah, like you said, like uh, even if it adds time and effort into like creating a game, overall it's better from the standpoint of accessibility to the masses.
And is clearly easier to manufacture, or at least more available to manufacture.
Right, like think about it, like this is the easier to get your hands on version of the next gen. And then for you spec lords, you're going to have to set up a robot to be able to purchase this.
Right.
And and that's what you do moving forward, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell they would do. And we talked about it, right? But I have no idea what the hell they would do for a midlife upgrade. And I just don't know what anybody wants.
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
Just go build a PC. Leave. Get off my
For real.
console.
I mean, it's
We're gonna
been-
build a wall. We're gonna build a wall, and we're gonna make 10 cent pay for it.
They probably could. They probably would. Yeah, I'm just getting so sick of like people. That's what drove me over the wall at this whole conversation with Redfall, and everyone's like, "Oh, we clearly don't need better hardware," and it's like it's not that the hardware can't handle it. It's again, I don't necessarily want to give Arcane a free pass because like this is something that's on their end.
Mhm.
It's something they need to figure out, and they, in a lot of people's opinion, and I think I include myself in that, like should figure this out before launch.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. Has nothing to do with the hardware though.
Yeah. Again, this was this to me screams this was an issue of resources and timelines, and they made the decision of which was more important. That's it. That's all it screams to me.
Yep.
And so yeah, if you want to be upset about just only 30 FPS, the pointing needs to go to Arcane and Arcane alone. I don't even think you can say Xbox is in on that. Maybe they went to Xbox and said which way, this way or that, but
could be.
I even doubt that, and like we don't even know, right? So to me, it until we were to learn more, it all goes to Arcane. But but the thing is, Mike, it's easier to blame the Series S. It's easier to blame the hardware. That simply has to be the issue. All I'm saying is if Sony would have bought Bethesda, Arcane would have released this game 120 FPS. And they would have released it 2 months ahead of schedule.
And under budget.
And under budget, and it wouldn't have released on dirty Game Pass.
$70 a pop. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
No, I don't either. That was a good hour-long discussion of something we thought was going to take like 10 minutes. Classic tales old as time.
Yeah, that's the GGBG way.
Sure is. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for talking to me, Spencer. Thanks for being my host.
No, you were my host. I was your humble co-host.
I feel like there's something derogatory about like, yeah, I'm the host, and we put the co in front of you, but like we're technically both co-hosts.
Yeah, we are both co-hosts.
Yeah, you're just on an ego trip.
I am just on an ego trip. Well, we are both co-hosts. I think we should clear this up while we still have a little bit of time. But like do the intro. I mean, you actually, the way you did it was you just said I'm Mike. You didn't say I'm your host, Mike. But like if you were to say I'm your co-host, Mike, and joining me is my co-host Spencer, I think that sounds weird. But there is only one co-host, so that means both are co-hosts. We co-host this together. What?
I'm fine having the label co-host because I'll show up in the phone book before you.
Yes. Yeah. But you show up in the credits before me as well.
Yeah.
Alphabetical.
Yeah.
Like Mike, Spencer.
Boom.
Yeah. I would give you like, I don't know. People always just have like dumb titles that don't actually mean anything, like executive producer. You're the executive producer of the podcast.
I have no idea what it stands for. I'm assuming it's some sort of like credential in the filmmaking world, but when you go to a movie and you'll see like ACE behind somebody's name.
No. I legitimately have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a thing, and that's what I want to be in the credits.
You want to be an ace?
Yeah. I should look up and see what it is, but I have ACE meaning film. American Cinema Editors.
Okay. Is it like
How do you-
A period C period E period?
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Okay.
It's an honorary society of motion picture editors. Yeah, just throw it in there.
Okay. I'll do
It
that.
sounds like bullshit, so
I mean, everything's just kind of made up when you think about it.
yeah, you pay enough, and here you are. And now I'm gonna get sued for putting that in my name, even though I have nothing.
I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt anybody would come after you. Stolen. You can do stolen valor. You just can't say you have a purple heart, and like the worst you get is basically a slap on the wrist. If you say you have a purple heart and you lie about that, that's a whole different story. But
Yeah. But what if I physically have a purple heart?
like it's a condition.
It's a color, at least.
Like it's like the classic joke of like he also has a big heart. No, but seriously, it's actually a condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Mike, he has a purple heart. Oh my god, when did he serve? Oh no. No. Sorry, the condition. Oh my god.
We have fun here. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Indeed.
But in all seriousness, you also put all the work into the podcast, so I'm fine having a lesser title because I do way less work. And
No.
that's okay.
It's all shared. I couldn't do it without you, and you couldn't do it without me. And don't you fucking forget it.
Well, since I can't do it without you, go through all of our Twitter stuff and where to find us. And
Sure. You can find us on Twitter. At GGBG Podcast, and I am terrible at reminding people of when episodes come out. However, when something funky happens like last week, I will be sure to post that and let people know that, you know, an episode is delayed or something like that. So you can feel free to follow us there. But obviously you can find us on all the places, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to podcasts, Apple, Google. What's a random podcast place?
oh,
There's one. It's like FM or something like that. But
yeah,
we're there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And we also have a YouTube channel. So
Screamer or something like that.
Screamer?
I don't know. Wasn't that like a really old podcast platform?
Probably. And we might be on that. But yeah, we also have a YouTube channel. Sometimes I'll break up episodes if we have enough like different topics, so that you can kind of listen in better chunks. This is an episode that won't happen to, because we only talked about one through line basically the entire way, and I don't care to edit that in that much detail. But you can be sure to follow us over there. I believe it's the same. I believe it is Good Game, Bad Game Podcast. It's got the same image and everything like that. And I believe if you go to our Twitter, you can find a direct link to it anyway. But yeah, best thing you can do is leave us a rating or a review wherever you do listen, and just share it around. And I
Share
think
it with a spec lord.
Yeah, share it with a spec lord. I was going to say share it with somebody who's a accredited Academy, what was it, cinema executive?
Editors or something like that.
But yeah, we do really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.